The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Good afternoon and welcome to Chatting with Jocelyn. I'm your host, Jocelyn. And in studio today, we have Victor, but he is resting. He's had a very busy day. So he is taking a timeout right now, on duty, but on a timeout. And we have Don Bolduc in the studio. So I'd like to welcome you to Chatting with Jocelyn.
Thank you, Jocelyn. I really appreciate being here, and I want to say hello to all your listeners.
Thank you so much.
Or in this case, watchers.
Watchers, right? There we go. We had listeners before, now we have watchers. So I do my shows a little different from most people. I like to have conversations. Mm-hmm. I like to be relatable. I don't pretend to be a smart person. I don't throw around big words. If I have... I misunderstand something or I misstate, I'm not going to lose my mind over it and scream and pound the floor, pound the table that I want this re-recorded or something. This is real life. This is a real conversation, and I feel that in today's world we don't do that anymore.
No, I would agree with you.
We don't have real conversations.
That's the problem.
Yeah, we don't look eye to eye. You and I make a lot of eye contact, and because we're truly, we're not sizing each other up, but we're, okay, where are we going with this? What are you thinking? What are you feeling? And all right, are we serious about this? And people can't identify with this anymore, hi pal. They're too busy using words. They're too busy showing off. They're too busy being loud or not, whatever it is that they are, and not listening and not paying attention to the conversation going on because it's multifaceted.
That's why I do so many one-on-ones or, small groups and things like that. On the last campaign trail, I've been doing it to start off this campaign, and it's hugely important. This eye-to-eye contact, I call it getting coffee breath close with somebody and having this conversation and talking through, a lot of things. One of my favorite movies, it's an old movie, it's called Cool Hand Luke with Paul Newman. And that was really the movie that America fell in love with Paul Newman, his smile and his approach. But, he was obviously a criminal and he went to jail and, he was given the nickname Cool Hand Luke, right? Because of, he was just a cool guy in prison. Well, his captain, the guy in charge of the prison, would always say when one of the inmates got in trouble, what we have here is a failure to communicate. And he would discipline them until he got their mind right, and so that's where those both, I got to get my mind right, and what we have here is a failure to communicate. And a lot of people use that, but they don't realize where it came from, and it came from the movie Cool Hand Luke. And that's exactly the problem we have today. Communication.
It is. And because we're going to make this segment a little political, I don't think there's a little political with you and me at all, but we'll try. We have politicians, not all, but quite a few, right and left, extreme right and left, middle, right and left, and some in the middle, that completely assume that they're smarter than us, they know more than we do, they're going to educate you, they're going to tell you what's right and wrong and what you should be looking for, what you should know, and they're missing the mark. And they've been missing the mark for a couple of decades.
They sure have. Right.
And we look around in the last election, the last 4 or 5 years, and you see, and people use the word awakening, woke. I can't stand the terminology. It's really just dumb, in my opinion. People are starting to realize that we're in a whole different world where people don't follow through with what they promise. They don't follow through with what they say. And you believe them because we are human and we want to believe the good in people. Okay, I will vote for you. And, he said this and she said that, and I think they're really going to do it this time. And the person gets to that position and it's a complete and utter failure. They ignore the person that voted them. They ignore the voter that voted for them. They ignore the taxpayer. So we don't ever want to forget the taxpayer that made this all possible. And they become holier than thou. They're off writing them a million bills so that they can be I did 17 bills in my first 3 days, and completely lost the connection and the ability to communicate with we the people. When I watched you campaigning, it felt different. It looked different. It was different. You did not put yourself above anybody else. You didn't stand up on a pedestal, on a pedestal or whatever you want to call it, podium, to talk to us people. If I remember correctly, I'm sure there were exceptions, but for the most part, you stood eye to eye, shoulder to shoulder, face to face with we the people, we the voter, we the taxpayers. And you talked to us as your equal.
That's right.
That spoke to me. You talked about issues that were every day. Something that would happen to me, that would happen to your son, that would happen to my son, that would happen to anybody. And you related to us, to the situation, to the event, and you had a solution. And if you didn't have a solution, you would talk through it with somebody. So you ran for Senate, and you had, from my estimation, a lot of people that wanted you to win. You had a lot of people that were going to vote for you. You had a lot of people donating directly to you because we chose not to go with the regular campaign stuff where our needs, our wants, our money was not being sent where we wanted it to go. And I thought that's what it was about. So you ran a campaign that was really all about us and not, if you elect me, I'll do this for you, like some great, wonderful God there. You said, no, this is what I'm going to do. I want to go fix this because I'm seeing it there. So like we just talked earlier in another show, that there are some issues with the VA, and you would like to address those issues. You've given us a couple ideas. You have spoken quite a bit on national security, of which you were the candidate that had the most background, that had the most knowledge. So every single time somebody had a concern, you were able to speak to that person and not speak down to them.
Right.
So I hope you're going to run again.
I am.
You are running again. So there we go. So anybody that didn't hear it, you just heard it again, or you're hearing it for the first time. You're going to run for Senate again.
I am.
Are you going to do anything differently?
Well, yes, we are. I mean, we are, starting much earlier because you never have enough time. And unfortunately, it's a money-driven business. You need to get donations, right? So we're starting early on, fundraising. We're starting early on maintaining connections with the base that you talked about earlier that we developed. And we did it by connecting with people. And we're going to strengthen that, and we're going to build that out. And we have a lot of time to do that. That really worried my opponent, Last election, Jean Shaheen did not want to run against me because she would have had to have campaigned. She would have had to put her tennis shoes on and met me out on the ground. Well, she had the luxury of not having to do that this time. And she ran a top-down campaign. She put ads out. She went to a couple places. She didn't campaign at all. And that's unfortunate. And they knew that if they had to run against me, it would be a completely different deal. You know, maybe I would have won, maybe I wouldn't have, but it would have been a lot closer than it was.
Would have been a heck of a race, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would have been a race, and it would have been exactly what the people of New Hampshire needed in a different perspective. You know, I have 33 and a half years of national security experience with her 12, right?
And correct me if I'm wrong, but yours is on the job.
Yes.
Hers is sitting in committees.
That's right.
Just not bashing,
right?
But here's where I have a problem as a regular person. I'm new into politics here. It's only been a year or two of kind of trying to understand things. I don't care what your name is, and I don't mean to be rude, not you, but I don't care what your name is. I care what your record is. I care that you follow through on your promises. Right. I care that you're not blowing sunshine up my skirt. I care that you're not a liar.
So you mentioned that, and you know, some of the criticisms that, you know, I mean, I'm trying to work on it because people thought that, you know, I was too direct and I was too loud and you know, I was, you know, yelling at them, but I wasn't doing any of that. Well, first of all, I got off the podium, I ditched the microphone, and I got eyeball to eyeball with people. And you know, you have to raise your voice in that environment. It's not that I'm yelling at anybody.
It's noise.
But because I wouldn't yell at anybody. But if I am serious, it's because this is a serious time. It's a serious time for our economy. It's a serious time for fiscal responsibility. It's a serious time for the safety and security of Americans. We have unprecedented threats outside of the United States, both with violent extremist organizations trying to infiltrate into America and trying to set themselves up in various places across the world in order to do bad things to Americans wherever we're at, bad things to our allies wherever they're at, and promote an extremist view of religion that is violent and that hurts people. And we want to protect ourselves. I mean, that extremism was responsible for 9/11 and many other attacks around the world. And we're trying, you know, to assist many other countries in the world, not only to protect Americans, but to protect our allies and do the right thing, because America is a benevolent country. And then we have China, an existential threat to our nation. We have Russia, who isn't our friend, who's looking for a back door into Europe, looking for a back door into, you know, they got the Crimea, and that is all very dangerous. And that happened in 2014, and we've been able to do little about it, and we got to do much more. We got Iran that's looking to expand its nuclear plant. They've killed many Americans in Iraq. They've killed been responsible for many Americans dying in Afghanistan. I was there. China is doing bad things in Afghanistan. They just had a Chinese political figure, a Chinese national, arrested for subversion in Afghanistan. We have North Korea that's looking to destabilize that area, that works with China, that works with Iran. We have Russia in Syria. We have China in Syria, undermining our allies, undermining the United States, undermining stability there. We have attacks on our great ally and friend Israel, right? One of the best things that I thought, there were a number of things I thought the president did very, very well, President Trump, but the Abraham Accords. And I like to draw the distinction. They were not peace deals. They were regional agreements, accords, to bring Arab countries and Israel together to stabilize the region. And that's hugely important because that's the perspective we need, a regional perspective that brings stability. And that's the genius in the Abraham Accords, and that needs to be invested in. And
doesn't that also show, correct me if I'm wrong, but that would show China, Russia, North Korea, not that its reach would be quite that far, that this is a stable region.
It would. It's a political.
And you need to think, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
See, we have an economic arm, and then we have a political arm, and we have a diplomatic arm. And those three keep us out of war, right? They can get us into war, but we want to use them in a strong way to keep us out of war. And the military becomes part of the solution, not the solution. We've turned that on its head since 2001, and we've tried to use the military to solve all our problems, and it only gets us in deeper problems, and then we can't get the military out. And President Trump spent 4 years trying to do it. I was very supportive of his efforts to get us out of Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria in the way that we were there, right? We still have other responsibilities with our military that complement the economic, the political, and the diplomatic. This isn't a conventional war. This is an unconventional war, and this is an asymmetric war. But we have people in Washington, D.C. that don't understand that.
It seems to me that, again, as outside looking in, you've got the knowledge I don't, that we have factions in our government that profess not to want war, but yet at every turn are promoting war.
They seem to get us into it.
They seem to get us into it.
You know what it's called? It's called the military-industrial complex. And the current senators and congressmen, many of them, are tied to that special interest and lobbyist groups that lobby for them.
That's what I was going to ask.
And they make a lot of money, right?
So it behooves them to be at war because
when
of
I went to my
moneymaker.
retirement course with my wife as a general officer, they hold the executive, transition course, and it's held at Belvoir. And I showed up with my resume already done, and I wanted to teach. Right, it was academically, based, resume. And when I got there, I realized, they told me, hey, we set this up so that you get a job in the defense industry. You're a general. That's what generals do.
Generally.
And I said, well, that's not what I want to do. I want to go back to the state of New Hampshire where there's few opportunities in the defense industry. Well, why do you want to do that? You can get an entry-level job in the defense industry here for $250,000 a year. And that's just entry-level, right? You probably may get more. And I said, I want to go back to New Hampshire, and I want to help veterans, and I want to help their families, because I know they're suffering, because I heard the stories, and my family's from there, and that's where I want to go. I want to teach, and that's what I want to do. This idea of running for office came later. And it was not my idea. It was brought to me by others. And they thought I could serve. One of them was our governor, right? Sat in his office 3 times, talked to him about running. And he explained to me the whole thing. The other one was Kelly Ayotte. Talked to them. Oh, you'd be a great candidate,
What happened?
We'll support you 100%.
So what
100%.
happened?
And I'll give you an endorsement at the right time. My wife was sitting right next to me when I said it. I'm not making this stuff up, right? But politics gets in the way, money gets in the way, power gets in the way, self-interest gets in the way. And so, here we are. Listen, when I tell you I'm going to go to Washington, D.C. to work for you, I have 33 years and service as a senior officer that backs that up. That's all I am about. And my whole life has been that way. I was a police officer, a part-time police officer in Laconia, New Hampshire, my senior year of high school. That made high school very tough, right?
My husband did the same thing. In high school.
Yeah. So, hey, and I go in the military, and it's all about service, and it's all about serving other people. That's how I was raised. That's the work ethic I learned on a farm. We delivered milk. I learned from my grandfather that if people didn't have the money to pay for milk that week,
you helped them out.
You helped them out, right?
You did the right thing.
You did the right thing. And I learned that. I learned that inside the family. And I've heard many, many stories from people around the Lakes region and, about my grandfather and about my dad and how giving they are that I didn't know, right? And now I know where I get that from. And I promise you that's what I'm going to do. And I believe in term limits. So I'm going to go down there and work for 2 terms if I get the honor to do it for you. And I will report back to you and I will communicate with you and I will get ideas from you because I don't know everything. And oh, by the way, get this, I will make mistakes, but when I do, I will admit them and I will account for them and I will make it right and we'll move forward. These things aren't done today.
No.
Right? And they're not done, and it's unfortunate that they're not done. And we need to change it. The politics of power and money, special interest, self-service is alive and well. The politics of character and integrity and selfless service have been replaced.
Yep. And
they've been replaced by career politicians, by big money, by people who have political names. And so name recognition. They seem to be able to do anything they want and actually get away with that, to include some of the things that you listed that they say they're going to do, but they're not doing, right? And they're not held accountable.
Right, and the next time round, so if you look at the current president, 47 years, keeps promising the same thing over and over and over again. Nothing changes. So we've got just about 6 minutes. So people say that when you get to Washington, when you get to D.C., which, let's clarify, is a territory. It's not a state.
No, that's right. It's not.
It's a territory.
It's a district.
It's a district. I was born there. I was born at Georgetown University. So it's a territory. It's a foreign country within the United States of America, and there's 10 square miles where they run the country from. It seems to be not accountable to anybody, any place, anywhere, and we have an awful lot of foreign interference going on in there, which seems to be okay because it's a territory. I'd like to see that done in Texas. I'd like to see that done in Louisiana. I'd like to see that done anywhere, USA. But somehow, this is just my thinking out loud, D.C. seems to be this place where you can go and do anything, say anything, and you're not accountable to anybody. And there are a few that are, but for the most part, it's not. So they say, you can have all the great thoughts, and you can want to do everything, and you're going to fix the world, and blah, blah, blah. But you can't. It's D.C. What do you say to them?
Well, I say that's a defeatist way of looking at things, and that's not the way I've ever looked at things. And I would tell you that I was always used in the military for whatever reason, and my wife can back this up. I was always sent to commands that needed to be fixed. And that was a very difficult thing to do because you're always pushing uphill, and you're always going to upset people when you're trying to fix stuff. And I have managed to make a career, a successful career, out of making change and the right change, despite the fact that it went against the establishment, right? And I feel I can do that in Washington, D.C. Will I solve all the problems in 12 years? No, but that's not what I'm going down there to do. I'm not going down there to write a bunch of bills. I'm going down there to look at the bills that affect our economy, fiscal responsibility, and the safety and security of Americans, and looking to fix the loopholes in those and repeal the bad ones, not add to them, not put Band-Aids on them.
Right.
I'm not in a race to put in the most bills.
Right.
I'm in a race to fix the bills that are broken, and we can see them. We have health care that's broken. We have welfare that's broken. We have opioid crisis funding that's broken, mental health crisis funding that's broken. We have contaminated water in this state that needs
infrastructure.
Our infrastructure is vulnerable. We have better ways to create jobs and reduce the price of energy. We can become stronger. I'm not against renewable energy, but it can't replace the other energy that we have, nuclear energy and fossil fuel. What the president is doing now with many of the bills that he signed are very dangerous to our economy, our fiscal responsibility, and the safety and security of Americans. It's not right. Not everything that he signed is bad, but there are certain things that are wrong. He got rid of 11,000 jobs in the United States with the Keystone contract cancellation, 40,000 jobs in Canada. He hurt relationships between our two countries. Yeah. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. The fracking executive order that he signed, 58,000 jobs are at risk, right? We have figured out, I've read all about it, we figured out how to frack properly. It's a balance. Yes, I'm concerned about the climate. I'm an environmentalist. I'm a Granite Stater. I'm from the Live Free or Die state. I've climbed all our peaks here. It took me 10 years to do it. I did it, right? I love clean water. I love clean air. I'm not going to do anything to upset that, but there is a balance to that. If we put another nuclear reactor in Seabrook, we could drive down energy costs significantly, but we're not going to do it because of politics. The Clamshell Alliance, Jean Shaheen, when she was a New Hampshire state senator, she believed in they got everybody all upset about, the nuclear reactor is going to heat up the ocean and the clams are going to, they're not going to be able to breed and everything's going to die. You know what happened to the clams? Well, the temperature, not because of Seabrook, but the ambient temperature just went up like a degree or so, and the clams started mating like crazy. So we had more clams than we knew what to do with. So it was a false thing. It was just to scare people. And this is my point in the last 56 seconds. From Washington, D.C. down to the state, they're running it based off of fear, uncertainty, and dependence, and control, and overreach. Yep. And we need to put people down there that believe the exact opposite. Self-determination, initiative, and independence. This don't tread on me attitude. This belief that Americans can do anything if they're left alone and given the opportunity to do it.
Correct.
And that's why I'm going down there.
Bottom up. We need a geyser.
Bottom up. It is our faith in God, our strength of families, our resiliency of our communities, and the strength of our country. Those four things. Looking after the economic, political, social, and cultural ideas of this great nation.
I love it.
That's what I stand for. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to work my butt off for you.
I love it. There we have it. You just had an official campaign speech,
That's right.
But in a natural conversation with me, Jocelyn on Chit-Chatting. Thank you so much for joining us. Don Bolduc and me, Jocelyn, and we can't wait to have him back. Send me some messages, what you would like to hear from Don Bolduc next time.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.